Access your free language gifts right now, before they expire. Here's what you're getting this month. First, the Love Conversation Cheat Sheet. Do you know how to ask someone out in your target language? With this new cheat sheet, you'll master tons of romantic phrases, just in time for Valentine's Day. Download it for free right now.
Second, the 400 Everyday Phrases for Beginners ebook. This bonus ebook will teach you over 400 words and phrases related to daily activities, like waking up, making breakfast, going to work or school, and much more.
Third, can you talk about containers in your target language? Learn how to say box, bottle, bin, and much more with this quick vocabulary bonus. Fourth, must know Valentine's Day vocabulary. Can you talk about Valentine's Day in your target language? You'll be able to with this quick 1-minute vocabulary lesson. Fifth, the top 15 encouraging phrases. Want to be able to say positive phrases like believe in yourself and don't give up? Then get this bonus phrase lesson. Sixth, free audiobooks. Unlock our huge library of language learning audiobooks. Save them to any device and listen and learn. They're yours to keep forever. And finally, the deal of the month. If you want to finally master the language with lessons by real teachers and our complete language learning program, take the 12-month challenge and get 12 months of Premium or Premium Plus at up to 45% off. To get your gifts and language learning resources, click the link in the description below. Download them right now before they expire.
Hi everybody, welcome back to Ask Alicia, the weekly series where you ask me questions and I answer them. Maybe. Okay, let's get to your first question. First question this week comes from It's Mimart. Hello, It's Mimart. It's Mimart says, when do we use the preposition to in a sentence? In these examples, why do we use to? She is now engaged to her longtime boyfriend. And I gave birth to 2 healthy boys. Okay, this is a big question and a big answer. There are lots of reasons that we use to in sentences. Let's talk about a few. First, we use to describe movement. So for example, I went to France, or he went to the office. We use to before the destination, the place that we are traveling to. So we use to talk about movement. We also use to in time expressions, like she worked from 9 to 5. It means until in these cases. Or she jogged from 3 to 4. So we can use it to express time in this way. We also use to when we're using the infinitive form of a verb in a sentence. So for a reminder, the infinitive form of a verb is the base form, like the dictionary form, the kind that you find in the dictionary. So that's to plus the verb. There are many cases, there are many different grammar patterns, many different structures in which we use the infinitive form. So a few examples of this are, we're going to buy lunch, and he called to say hello. In other cases, though, the rules kind of disappear a bit. They fade away. It's not so easy to apply a simple rule. This is because these uses of to, like the ones that you've shared in your example sentences, are actually from idioms or they're parts of phrasal verbs. These rules don't apply, however, when we look at to in phrasal verbs and in idioms. So you have to remember these kind of like separate vocabulary words. You have to memorize them the same way that you would vocabulary words. Unfortunately, there isn't a clear-cut rule for when to use to in cases like these. So for example, in your first example sentence, she got engaged to her longtime boyfriend. The to in that sense is part of the get engaged to expression. That's an idiom, to get engaged to someone. That's a set phrase. In the second example sentence, she gave birth to 2 healthy boys. To, in that sentence, is part of the expression give birth to. So there are lots of set expressions, phrasal verbs and idioms that use to, and you just have to memorize them like vocabulary words. They're like kind of independent expressions, independent phrases that you need to think about. So this is a quick introduction to a few uses of to, and also just consider that sometimes there's not really a specific rule for the reason why to is used in an expression. It's just the vocabulary word, or it's just the idiom. So a good way perhaps to practice this is read. I would suggest reading, and over time, naturally, you'll start to kind of get a feel for the expressions that use to and the expressions that use by or at or in or on and so on. Similar issues exist with other prepositions for sure. So I would suggest reading as much as possible to help you identify the most natural choice of preposition. You can read novels, you can read news articles, you can read social media posts, whatever. Make sure you're reading a lot, and then you'll kind of, over time, as I said, get a feel for what should be the preposition used. So I hope that this helps you. I hope this was a good introduction to a few cases in which it is kind of rule-based use of to, but also just to give you a heads up, give you some information about these expressions that use to as kind of a set expression. So thanks very much for the question. All right, let's move on to your next question. Next question comes from Vinay. Hi, Vinay. Vinay says, how do we talk about simultaneous events in present continuous tense? Okay, to talk about two or more events happening right now, so two or more things that are happening in the present moment, you can try a pattern like one of these. I'm listening to music and working at the same time. Are you cooking and cleaning right now? He's watching me while operating the camera. So a reminder, these patterns are used for two actions that are happening right now at the same time. If you want to talk about actions that happen regularly, like habits, you need to use simple present tense. We don't use that ing form for regular actions. We can only use these patterns for actions that are happening now. So please keep this in mind. But I hope that this helps you describe simultaneous actions in the present. Thanks very much for the question. Okay, let's move on to your next question. Next question comes from Nellie. Hi, Nellie. Nellie says, hi, Alicia. What is the meaning of educated guesses? Thank you. Yeah, sure. Great question. An educated guess is a guess that we make after doing research or after getting some information about the topic. So we can compare this to just a guess. So a guess is just something that we come up with. We have an idea about something, we share it, we make a guess about something. An educated guess sounds like something we actually thought about. We tried to find information to make our guess more accurate. So for example, if I asked you, who do you think will be the next president of the United States, and you have no idea, but you want to guess, you could say a famous person like Beyonce or something. So that's probably not a good strategy, making a guess like that, though President Beyonce does sound pretty awesome. So making an educated guess, on the other hand, would require you to do some research. Who are the candidates? What is their position on various issues? Are they popular or not? So after doing that kind of research and then sharing a guess, like choosing one of the candidates, that would be an example of making an educated guess. So this is the difference between an educated guess and just a guess. Keep in mind that lots of people like to pretend to make an educated guess when they're really just guessing. So keep this in mind too. I hope that this helps you. Thanks for the question. Okay, let's move on to your next question. Next question comes from Lynn. Hi, Lynn. Lynn says, hi, Alicia. I know we use a when it is followed by a consonant sound and use an when it is followed by a vowel sound. But I heard we pronounce a as a or depending on the consonant or vowel sound condition as well. I just put these rules together and I'm confused now. What's the difference? For example, he is an or a European person, or this is a or a one-way street. Thank you so much. Sure. Okay, first let's review the or a and an rules. We use the indefinite article a or before a word that begins with a consonant sound. We use an before a word that begins with a vowel sound. So a key difference here is sound. Be careful, this has nothing to do with spelling. So for example, an hour, we use an there because hour begins with a vowel sound. It starts with an H, yes, in spelling, but the sound is a vowel sound, hour. So this is the rule for using a or a and an. To answer your question, however, there actually isn't a rule for when native speakers use the a or pronunciation. It's completely up to the speaker. So don't worry about what you've studied. You don't have to change anything there. So just keep in mind that native speakers will use a pronunciation for emphasis sometimes. So we do this when we want to emphasize that there's a key difference in some situation. So here's an example. Let's imagine you are looking for your phone and I find one here. And I say, hey, I found this phone. You might reply and you might say, you found a phone. You didn't find my phone. So the reason that a native speaker would choose to use the a pronunciation there is to emphasize that I just found this phone in particular. I found a phone. Yes, it belongs to the category phone, but it's not the speaker's phone. So the speaker is making a contrast. They want to clearly show the difference between a phone and my phone. This desired thing and this thing you found are different. So that's the reason that they would use this a emphasis, so that pronunciation as emphasis in that situation. Let's try one more example. Imagine we're coworkers in this situation, and I'm looking for a file, an important file, and you offer to help me. You find a file that you think is correct, and you show it to me, and I go, yeah, you found a file, but it's not the file. So in that case, I'm contrasting, I'm showing a difference, I'm emphasizing a difference between this file you found and the file that I'm looking for. In this case, I'm using the file to mean the file that we both know about, this file that we both are looking for right now. I'm using the a pronunciation to draw attention, to kind of point out that this thing and this thing are different. So when I say a pronunciation might be used for emphasis, this is what I mean. So in sum, you can use either a or a. It really doesn't matter, it's up to you. But you might hear native speakers using that a pronunciation for the article when they're trying to emphasize a key difference between this thing and another thing. So I hope that this helps you. Thanks for the question. Okay, let's move on to your next question. Next question comes from Godson Ernst Pierre-Louis. Hello, Godson Ernst. Godson Ernst says, I often hear two different pronunciations of the word neither, and today I'd like to know which one is right for me, please. Thank you. Aha, the answer is both. Both. Neither and neither are both totally acceptable pronunciations. There's actually a famous George Gershwin song, if you're familiar with George Gershwin. He wrote Rhapsody in Blue. He had some musicals. Anyway, he and his brother Ira did some cool musical stuff. But there's a very famous example in their work that references this issue. So they have neither and neither as good examples, or potato and potato, both acceptable, or tomato and tomato. So there are different pronunciations for a few words, and you might know some more, but they're both fine. They're both acceptable. You can use neither or neither. I would say personally that probably in today's American English we use neither, and for the other words that I mentioned, tomato and potato. Those are the more common pronunciations, but you can still use the other pronunciations if you like. So that would be my personal recommendation, but you can use both. They're both fine. So I hope that this helps you. Thanks for the question. Hi everybody, my name is Alicia. In this lesson I'm going to talk about could have, should have, and would have, what they mean, how to use them in the negative, and the differences between them. So let's get started. First, I want to begin with could have. Let's look at the positive and the negative meanings of could have. First, positive. We use could have, positive, for something that was possible in the past. So to give kind of an image of this, if our conversation is happening now, when we use could have, we're talking about something that had possibility in the past, something we were able to do, for example. An example sentence, if I had known you were throwing a surprise party, I could have helped. I could have helped. So here, could have shows us that this action, helping, was possible in the past. In this case, the speaker did not know some information, and as a result, this action did not happen, but it was possible at a point in the past. The speaker could have helped. Helping was a possibility in the past. So we use could have to express that possibility. The negative form, however, expresses the opposite. So in the negative, could not have
expresses something that was impossible, so not possible in the past. So here, if we want to give an image, it's something that was not possible, something we were not able to do. Let's look at an example of this. No, that couldn't have been Sarah in the cafe just now. She's at the office. So here, I'm using couldn't have, could not have, contracted, reduced, becomes couldn't. So that couldn't have been Sarah in the cafe just now. In other words, it's impossible that just now we saw Sarah in the cafe. Why? She's at the office. So in this case, maybe Sarah is the speaker's colleague, coworker. So we know Sarah is at the office. So we saw someone maybe who looks like Sarah at the cafe just now. But it's not possible it was Sarah because Sarah's at the office. So we can say that couldn't have been. So it's impossible that that was Sarah. So couldn't have been sounds much more natural than it's impossible that that was Sarah. So we use couldn't have been or could not have been. So positive form, something that was possible in the past. So be careful in maybe contrast. A key difference here is this is only about possibility. We're not talking about like a plan to do something or regret necessarily. We're only talking about possibility when we use could or could not here. So with this, let's move along to the next part. The next part, I want to focus on should have. So let's look at the positive form. Should have in the positive expresses regret for something we did not do in the past. So an image of this here, if our conversation is happening now, we want to talk about something we did not do in the past, and that now maybe we think, oh, it's a good idea, like I should have done this thing. I did not do this thing in the past. That's why I marked it with an X here. So I did not do this thing, but I feel bad now. I feel regret. Like I should have done that thing in the past. So an example sentence of this. I should have studied more when I was in school. Here is the should have. I should have, and this action, studied more. So, in other words, the speaker did not study enough in the past. The speaker feels he or she did not study enough in the past, regrets that, and wants to express the change. Like, I wish I had done this thing. I should have studied more when I was in school. So here we have more. This is a common pattern with should have or should not have. When we use more, it means I should have studied more than I did when I was in school. So here, the speaker is expressing regret, sadness about something they did not do. Therefore, when we use the negative form, the speaker, again, expresses regret, yes, but they're expressing regret for something that happened in the past, something they did in the past. So I've marked it here with a check. This action did happen, and we feel regret about that action. We feel bad about something we did in the past. An example, I shouldn't have spent so much time playing video games when I was a kid. So here I've used shouldn't have. So should not have is how we make the negative form. I've reduced it shouldn't have in rapid speech, shouldn't have. I shouldn't have spent so much time playing video games. So what's the action here? The speaker played video games when he or she was a child. The speaker now regrets that. The speaker says, I shouldn't have spent so much time. I should have spent less time playing video games. So I could use positive should have. I should have spent less time playing video games when I was a kid. Here, I shouldn't have spent so much time. So here, a key point with should have is that we're expressing regret. Remember, with could have, we're talking just about possibility. With should have, we're expressing a regret for something that did or did not happen in the past. So with this in mind, let's go on to the last point for this lesson. The last point
the last point rather, is would have, would have. So when we say would have, we often say would've, would've. I mentioned it here with should have, we say should've or shouldn't have. Same thing with could have, like could've or couldn't have is the correct pronunciation in fast speech. So when we talk about would have, or when we look at would have, and we look at the positive form, we use it to express a plan for something that did not happen. So we're talking about something in the past. So from a point in the past, something in the future at that time, we had a plan for that thing, or we thought something was going to happen. But in the positive form, it did not happen. This is kind of tricky. Let's look at an example situation. Here, I would have arrived on time today, but there was terrible traffic, so I did not arrive on time. So first, here's my action. I would have arrived on time. So I had a plan, or I had a desire. I was thinking I was going to arrive on time. So at this point in time, I would have arrived on time today. Maybe we're thinking when I left the house, maybe this is where the action starts. My plan was to arrive on time. So again, this is all happening in the past. My conversation is here. I was planning to arrive on time, but there was terrible traffic. Terrible traffic means lots and lots of cars. It was difficult to drive or difficult to get to work. So I did not arrive on time. I would have arrived on time, but I didn't because of terrible traffic. So this shows us, this would have shows us all of this information, everything here happened in the past on like a timeline. So I thought I was going to arrive on time, something happened and I didn't. So we can use would have to show like our thinking in this point, would have in the past, about a future action that is also in the past. So a couple of past points there at the same time. Okay, so let's compare this then to the negative form. The negative form then expresses the opposite. So we have a lack of plan or a lack of a desire. So lack of something means no plan or no desire. So lack of plan for something that happened in the past. It did happen, yes. So we commonly use both of these to talk about other people's choices, like when we're giving advice. This example sentence is a very common way that we use would not have or wouldn't have. Let's look. If I were you, I wouldn't have quit my job before I found a new position. So here is my would not have. I've reduced it to wouldn't have. I would not have quit my job before I found a new position. So that means if I were you, this is how we're beginning this. This is a very common way that this would have or would not have is used. So if I were you, I'm not you, but if I were, at this point in time in the past, my decision would not have been to quit my job. However, your decision was to quit your job. This did happen. You quit your job. In my case, I would not have done that. So here, in opposite to the positive form, I'm talking about a point in the past, like if I were you, just in general, and I'm talking about a future decision I might make. In this case, the person listening did choose to quit his or her job. I'm saying I would not have quit my job. That would not have been my decision for the future. So again, there's kind of this idea of 2 points in the past, like a kind of a general, I guess, a starting point in the past, if I were you, in this case, and some decision, some plan, some like desire or lack of desire in this case in the negative form. So we use these, like I said, to talk about like other people's choices when we're giving advice. Like, oh, if I were you, I would have done this in the past. So we use would have to talk about past decisions and maybe to talk about things like if you were the speaker, like things you might change. What would you do differently? So
we use this to talk about these sorts of past decisions and give advice and talk about how we might make different decisions in the future. So this kind of expresses a desire or lack of desire. This one, should have, expresses regret in the past. Could have expresses possibility. So this is just a quick introduction to the differences between these three expressions and their negative forms. I didn't write the not here, so would not have. But if you have any other questions about this, please let us know in the comments. They are very similar, I know. They sound very similar, and it can be hard to understand how to use them, but try to keep these three kind of themes in mind. Possibility and regret, and then kind of desire or advice here. So I hope that this helps you understand the differences between these three. If you have questions or comments, or if you want to practice making an example sentence, please feel free to do so in the comment section of this video. Of course, if you like the video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up, subscribe to our channel, and check us out at EnglishClass101.com for some other things that can help you with your English studies. Thanks very much for watching this lesson, and I will see you again soon. Bye-bye.
Hi everybody, welcome back to Top Words. My name is Alicia, and today we're going to talk about 10 modal verb patterns. Let's go. Can, could you? Can, could you? Okay, so this first one is can you or could you, blah, blah, blah. So a lot of people ask, what's the difference between can you and could you? Which one should I use? If you're making a request, basically you can use either one. If you want to sound a little bit more polite, I would recommend you use could you. So if you're talking to your friend or your family member, you can say like, can you help me with this? Or can you help me make dinner? Or can you buy some milk at the store? Or can you please fix your hair? It looks weird. If you want to be a little bit more polite, like when you're talking to someone at work or talking to someone you don't know so well, you can use could you, blah, blah, blah. So could you please send me that file? Or could you please tell me where the restroom is? You can use those for more polite situations. Both of them are totally correct. Both of them are fine to use in most everyday situations, so it's up to you to decide how polite you want to sound. Okay, example sentence. Can you help me move this sofa? I may, might. I may, might. Okay, may and might. This presents another very, very common question. When you want to talk about your own plans, as in this example sentence with I may, blah, 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 or I might, blah, 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 we have the same feeling, yes. They both express something we're not sure about, an upcoming plan that we're not sure about. But in American English today, might tends to be more commonly used in everyday conversation. May tends to sound a little bit more polite, a little bit more formal. When we're talking with our friends, we say, I might go to the beach this weekend, or I might go to a party. To make it negative, we say, I might not do that, or I might not go to dinner after all. I feel kind of sick. So might tends to be used more in everyday conversation. Again, just as with can and could, may and might are both completely correct. They're both fine to use. It's just up to you to choose how polite you want to sound. Okay, examples. I might take a day off next week. What should I? What should I? Okay, this one focuses on the word should. We use should to ask for advice and to give advice generally. So we tend to use this word in kind of close situations. You're asking somebody for help maybe, you're asking for someone's opinion. So you can say, what should I do if you are having trouble in an everyday life situation? Or you can use this to make a more complex sentence, like, what should I get for dinner tonight? Like to ask for someone's opinion. Or maybe you can change as well the I to something else, to another person. What should he do? Or what should she do? Or what should they do? You can change that I in the sentence to ask about someone's opinion regarding a third person, regarding another party. So this is a very basic sentence. Yes, what should I, this pattern, but you can change it with these very, very simple, small things to ask about others outside yourself. Another example. What should I make for dinner? I think you should. I think you should.
Okay, so here again, we're seeing should used. In this case, we're seeing I think you should. So that means we are seeing an advice pattern being presented here. This is something you can use to kind of softly and maybe a little politely express your opinion about something. In this case, I think you should is followed by a verb. I think you should verb. I think you should go. I think you should quit. I think you should stop eating so much junk food. You're giving some kind of advice to the listener. You can make this less polite by dropping I think. So you make the sentence, you should blah. You should do this. You should do that. That will make the sentence less polite. Including I think at the beginning of it makes it sound a little bit softer. So it sounds a bit nicer, a little bit kinder. Examples. I think you should start exercising. Shall we? Shall we? Okay, shall we? This is another very common question. Lots of people like to ask about the difference between shall we and will we. They are very different. You cannot use them interchangeably. Shall we is a polite way to suggest you do something. Maybe you've seen this in a romantic movie like Shall We Dance? Or Shall We Go for a Drink? Something like that. It sounds kind of polite, a little bit nice to say shall we instead of do you want to? They have the same meaning though, but shall we sounds a little bit more formal. So shall we and will we are sometimes confused by learners. Will we is quite different. Will we is asking a question about a future plan, like, will we have to pay for this later? Or will we be in time for the movie? Shall we is like suggesting you do something with another person. Will we is saying something like, oh my gosh, I'm not sure about this future plan that we have together. Is it true? Is it going to happen? That's the difference between the two. Oh, another point about this. Shall we tend to use shall we or shall I. We don't really use shall he or shall she so often. We tend to use it for our own activities. That's why you'll see shall we or shall I used more. This is also true for an expression like shall you. You don't see that. Shall is used together with some other person. Example. Shall we visit your parents for Christmas? If I would. If I would. This is a very common pattern. If I something, I would. A lot of people like to use this in an expression like if I were you, I would. So they like to ask, should I use were? Should I use was in a pattern like if I were you or if I was you? The correct answer is if I were you, I would. We use was in a pattern like if I was something, something, something to talk about a possible past situation. When you want to talk about something that is not true now, so an unreal situation now, like being you, which is not true, not possible, use were. If I were you. It's not possible, so please use were in that case. You can, of course, use this in other situations. If I something, I would. For example, if I lost my job, I would find a new one. Or if I won the lottery, I would buy a house. So you can use verbs in this pattern as well. Just keep in mind the verb form that you use. If I won the lottery, or if I ate a big dinner, we're using simple past tense in this verb form. So please make sure not to use like simple present tense or don't use an ing verb form here. If I, simple past tense, I would, blah, blah, blah. For example, if I had a bigger house, I would have dinner parties. So final point here, remember when you use this pattern to express something that is not true, not real, like in my example sentence, if I won the lottery, I would buy a house, make sure you're using the correct verb form after would too. If I won the lottery, past tense verb, I would buy a house. The verb in the main clause is in the infinitive form. So make sure that your verbs match. This is a good one to study grammar with. Okay, onward. You must not. You must not. Okay, here we see a rule. Must is commonly used to express rules. We don't use must so much in everyday conversation because it tends to sound quite strong. You will, however, see must used in official rules, like if you're traveling, you're going to like the airport, maybe you are seeing some rules on a sign somewhere, or you're seeing, I don't know, maybe you're reading a contract, something official. That's where you tend to see must used. We use must in everyday conversation for super, super strong things, like you must must do this or you must not do that. Maybe your doctor gives you some advice, for example. So in general, you don't see this in everyday conversation so much, but you should know when it means that you should take something seriously, like in an official rule, like you must not smoke in this area, or you must stop eating junk food, or you're going to get very, very unhealthy, or you must not forget your mother's birthday. That's actually very true. That's a very strong situation. You must not forget your mother's birthday.
You must not disappoint your mother.
You must not disappoint your mother. Exactly, exactly. So these are all very, very important and strong things that we need to communicate. We do that with must. You can also, of course, change your subject to he or she or they as well, so that you're not just talking to you, the listener or the reader, but you can use it to express something another person must or must not do. Example: passengers must show their passports to immigration officers. This must not be. This must not be. Okay, this use of must sometimes is a bit challenging. The key with this use of must is the use of must with be. So when we use must and be together, we're talking about a possible condition or a possible state. In this example, we see it in the negative. This must not be something, something, something. So we use this in a situation like, for example, you're looking for a place. You're using the GPS on your phone, and you come to this place and you think, this seems correct, but the restaurant I'm looking for is not here. We might say, this must not be the right place. That means this is probably not the right place, or this expression describes a very high chance that something is not true in the negative. When we use it in the positive, for example, oh, this must be the right place. I found the restaurant. It means there's a high possibility I am correct. So this use of must is when we use it with be. To make the negative must not be. To make the positive, this must be. So you can use it to talk about places. You can also use it to talk about conditions. So for example, like when you look at answers on a test, you might think to yourself, this must be the correct answer, or this must be correct. You can use both a noun and an adjective after this to express that high or low condition of something being true. Example: this must not be the right place. It's closed. That can't be. That can't be. Okay, that can't be. This is the reduced form of that cannot be. This means it's impossible. So some condition or some state is impossible. This is different from must not be, because must not be expresses that there's a very, very low chance that something is true. That can't be expresses that something is completely impossible. There is 0% chance that something is true. So for example, if I think I see my coworker at the coffee shop, but I know my coworker is at the office, I might think to myself, that can't be Risa. She's at the office today. Maybe she looks just like my coworker, but I know it's not possible. I express that with can't be. This is quite different from that must not be, because must not be expresses there's still a little bit of a chance that that is true. Can't be expresses that it is completely impossible. Interestingly, we don't really use this in the positive form much. We don't say this can be correct. We tend to say this could be correct. We don't really use this can be pattern. So if you want to express something is impossible, completely impossible, use this can't be. Also, couldn't be is acceptable here. But when you want to express that something is just possible, use could be, not can be. Interesting point. Okay, example. That can't be the right file. The data is totally different. We shouldn't. We shouldn't. Okay, so here we're using should again, this time in the negative. Shouldn't is the reduced form. Should not becomes shouldn't. In this case, we're using it with the subject we, meaning something you and I together should not do. So again, this is an advice pattern. We should not do something. Of course, you can make this positive by simply removing not after should. We should, blah, blah, blah. So we shouldn't steal. We shouldn't disrespect our mothers. We shouldn't forget our mothers' birthdays, right? This is the important point from today's lesson, I think. We shouldn't. So when you want to express something that's not a good idea, something that you don't think you as a group should do, you can express that with we shouldn't verb. In this case, also, please remember you follow the verb with the infinitive form. We shouldn't do something. We shouldn't eat. We shouldn't talk. We shouldn't forget. So don't use like an ing form. Don't use a past tense form here. Please follow should, this use of should, the advice form, with the simple infinitive form. Example, we shouldn't think too much about this. All right, that is everything for this episode. That was 10 modal verb patterns that you can use. What did you think? You can let us know in the comments. All right, that is everything for this episode. Thanks very much for watching, and I will see you again next time. Bye-bye.
Hi everybody, welcome back to Know Your Verbs. My name is Alicia, and in this lesson, we're going to talk about the verb deliver. Let's get started. Let's begin with the basic definition of the verb deliver. The basic definition is to take something from one person and give it to another person. Some examples. FedEx delivered my package today. He delivers pizzas 3 nights a week. Now let's look at the conjugations for this verb. Present, deliver, delivers. Past, delivered. Past participle, delivered. Progressive, delivering. Now let's talk about some additional meanings for this verb. The first additional meaning is to give birth or to help someone give birth. Let's start with some examples. Our doctor has safely delivered many babies. The mother delivered twins. So this use of the verb deliver refers specifically to childbirth. Sometimes the verb is used to talk about someone like a doctor or a nurse or a midwife or other helper aiding a mother in giving birth to children. In that case, we see sentences like the first example sentence. Our doctor has safely delivered many babies. That means the doctor has assisted in the birth of many different babies, has assisted in safely, it's probably a key word here, but safely delivered, safely helped many babies into the world. The second example sentence, however, is focused on the mother. So the mother delivered twins means the mother gave birth to twins. So deliver refers to giving birth in that sentence. So depending on the subject of the sentence, it can mean either helping someone give birth or actually giving birth when we're talking about the mother, usually. So deliver can refer to both of these things, but they're both related to childbirth, childcare. Let's go on to the second additional meaning for this lesson. The second additional meaning for deliver is to speak or to sing, especially when directed at somebody. Let's look at some examples. Martin Luther King Jr. delivered a moving speech in Washington, D.C. The judge is delivering the verdict later today. So both of these example sentences show kind of a formal event. The first example sentence refers to a very famous speech. The second example sentence refers to a formal situation, like a courtroom, where a judge is delivering, as in the example sentence, a verdict. A verdict means a choice, a legal choice, or a legal decision, really. So in the first example sentence, Martin Luther King Jr. delivered a speech. It means spoke, yes, but there's usually some kind of like big intention. There's a specific aim behind the words. We could also use it to talk about singing, like delivered an amazing performance, for example, if you're talking about maybe opera. Just to give an example. But there's kind of some large aim, some purpose, some big like intention for the performance in the case of singing, or for the words in the case of speaking. So in the first example sentence, we see that it's a speech. It's an important speech we're talking about. So Martin Luther King Jr. delivered an important speech. We could say gave an important speech, yes, but using deliver kind of upgrades the formality, upgrades the seriousness of the situation. The second example sentence about the judge delivering a verdict, we see that choice of deliver there because it's a formal situation again. We could say the judge gave the verdict or the judge provided the verdict as well. But deliver is like the judge is sort of passing the information in a formal manner. This is kind of the nuance of the word choice deliver here. So you can see deliver used to talk about communication in formal and kind of important situations in this way. Let's go on to the next additional meaning for this verb. The next additional meaning is to produce results as promised. Let's start with some examples. I'm not sure they're going to deliver on time. They delivered on their promises. So this use of the verb deliver means to provide something that's expected, like there's some order or there's some request that has been made and that needs to be fulfilled. So someone needs to keep their promise. That's the feeling of this use of deliver. So in the first example sentence, we see, I'm not sure they're going to deliver on time, means I'm not sure they're going to keep their promise on time. Like maybe the schedule has changed, some problem has arisen, we don't know. But I'm not sure they're going to deliver means I'm not sure they're going to complete the thing they said they would complete in the time frame we agreed upon. So I'm not sure they're going to finish. I'm not sure they're going to be able to do the thing they said they would do on time. The second example sentence is more positive, though. They delivered on their promises. Here, past tense delivered. So they were able to do the things that they promised to. So there was a promise made in the past. There was some agreement reached in the past. And the agreement or the promise was fulfilled. They delivered on their promises. They were able to do the things they said they would do. Let's continue to the next additional meaning for the verb deliver. The next additional meaning is to save someone from something. Let's start with some examples. Deliver us from evil. The rescue team delivered people from danger. A key point about this meaning of the verb deliver is that it's rather formal and perhaps even biblical. Biblical means it relates to the Bible. So if you have read the Bible, or if you're familiar with some of the prayers or some of the ways of speaking from the Bible, you might be familiar with this use that we see in the first example sentence, deliver us from evil. So deliver us from evil means save us from evil, save us from evil things. So deliver in this way is not so commonly used in everyday speech. If you attend church or if you attend another kind of religious or maybe religiously related organization, you might hear this use of deliver there in your community. In general, however, in the news, we don't use the verb deliver to talk about saving or maybe even rescuing people. In those cases, like I said, save and rescue are more common. Deliver tends to be used more like in biblical contexts. The second example sentence, like the rescue team delivered the people from danger, I'm kind of stretching the meaning of that one a little bit. That might not be such a typical example, but it's sort of the kind of situation that you could imagine deliver being used in. So if I were writing a report or if I were making the news for the day, I probably would not use deliver in that way, but the meaning is still communicated there. So deliver tends to be used in like serious situations, like deliver us from evil. Evil is quite serious, or to deliver someone from danger or from a very stressful situation. So it tends to be something more serious in nature. But like I said, deliver is not used so commonly in this way in everyday speech. You might hear it more in like specific religious organizations. Let's continue on to some variations for the verb deliver. The first variation is to deliver a blow. To deliver a blow. This means to have a damaging effect on something. Some examples. She delivered a blow to the company when she announced her decision. The team scored another goal, delivering a blow to their opponents. Okay, so to deliver a blow means like to cause some damage or to cause some harm. But this doesn't usually mean physically. It's more like mental or emotional damage. In the first example sentence, she delivered a blow to the company with her decision. That means she made a decision and that somehow damaged her company. So maybe she was like the CEO or a top management person at her company. She decides to quit. And she's a very valuable worker, so it's damaging to the company. Physically not damaging, but the company loses something important. So we can say she delivered a blow to the company. She caused damage, or she had like a damaging effect on the company as a result of her decision. So she delivered a blow, we could say. In the second example sentence, we see it in a sports situation. So Team A scored another goal. So we see another goal, meaning there was a previous goal or goals already. But the team scored another goal and delivered a blow to their opponent, so Team B. So that means Team A, their score went up, and Team B's maybe motivation or morale was damaged. So deliver a blow, again, doesn't mean physically attacking someone. It means that there's some kind of damage, usually like kind of a mental or emotional damage. In this case, perhaps motivation-related damage occurs. So to deliver a blow can mean to cause damage to someone or something, like an organization or a company. Let's go on to the second variation for this verb, which is to deliver the goods. To deliver the goods. This is a very informal and very casual expression that means to give the things that have been promised. Examples. I'm not sure they're going to be able to deliver the goods on time. You have to be prepared to deliver the goods if you want to work here. So both of these refer to some kind of service or some kind of goods, some kind of like there's items of some kind being provided. So you will hear this perhaps in movies and in TV shows. This is a very, very, very casual expression that sometimes has the nuance of maybe activities that aren't legal. So it could refer to like drugs or medication that's illegally obtained, or to some other kind of substance or some other kind of stolen goods, for example. There's something that you don't want to say specifically like what it is. So we say deliver the goods. So the goods can mean any number of things. Deliver the goods means like give the things that are promised, like we talked about in one of the additional meanings. But it's like you have to promise to provide the things you say you're going to provide. So it has a little bit of kind of a dark feeling about it, I think. Sometimes we may casually use this expression among friends now and then with very like small situations like deliver the goods, like the party supplies, for example. But in more serious situations, it can refer to maybe not completely legal activities, to deliver the goods. Okay, so those are a few, hopefully, new ways to use the verb deliver. If you have any questions or comments, or if you know a different way of using the verb deliver, please feel free to let us know in the comment section of this video. Hi everybody, welcome back to Know Your Verbs. My name is Alicia, and in this episode, we're going to talk about the verb post. Let's get started. The basic definition of the verb post is to publish or announce something on a sign or something similar to a sign. Examples. He posted an advertisement on the community bulletin board. Let's post signs around town. Now let's look at the conjugations for this verb. Present, post, posts. Past, posted. Past participle, posted. Progressive, posting. Now let's talk about some additional meanings for this verb. The first additional meaning is to share something on social media. Examples. I saw that photo you posted on Instagram yesterday. Did you see that message she posted on Facebook? So when we upload information like photos or messages, tweets, whatever, we can use the verb post to talk about that. For Twitter, I suppose we can use tweet as a verb too. You can say I posted on Twitter or I tweeted as well. But post is the kind of the general verb we can use for all social media. When we share anything on social media, we can say I posted something on Facebook or on Instagram or on Twitter or on Snapchat or on what else is there? YouTube. Posted it on YouTube or uploaded it to YouTube, I suppose, too. But post is the general verb used for social media sharing. So I think actually that this use of post comes from the original definition, which is to put something in a community sign or to put something in a community place where many people can see it. Because that's the purpose of social media, is to share something so many people will see it. So I think that use of post comes from that basic definition of the verb post, like sharing something in a community space, because we want other people to see it and respond to it. The second additional meaning is to send something by mail. This is more commonly used in British English, actually. In American English, we tend to use the verb mail more often, but in British English, you might hear post used. Examples. Can you post me the documents? I posted a few letters today. So here, post refers to mailing something. Can you post me the documents means can you send me the documents by mail, physically by mail. The second sentence, I posted some letters, refers to mailing some letters, sending some letters via mail. So this is kind of more commonly used in British English. Post is more commonly used to mean mail in British English. In American English, we tend to use the verb mail more commonly. So depending on the type of English you are studying or you prefer to use, you might make a decision here with this verb. So post or mail. Post British, mail American. The third additional meaning is to send someone somewhere for work. Examples. He's been posted outside the White House. There's security posted around the building. So you can see in these example sentences, it's kind of work relating to security or to military, to guarding of some kind. We don't really use it for a regular office job. I wouldn't say I've been posted to my company's branch in Beijing. It sounds a little bit weird. We would say maybe transfer, or I've been transferred, or I've been moved to my company's office. When we're talking about a specific place, a job where we need to stand and wait somewhere, and it tends to be for security, military purposes, that kind of thing, we can use the verb post to talk about that. It might sound a little out of place if you use post for a different job. So these are a couple examples of ways that you can use post to refer to being sent somewhere to do this kind of work. Now let's move on to some variations for this verb. The first variation is to keep someone posted, to keep someone posted. This means to provide regular updates to someone. Examples. Keep me posted about your project. I'll try to keep you posted about my schedule. So to keep someone posted means to give them regular updates. You can think back to the original definition of the verb, post, sharing information in a community way. To keep someone posted is sort of to continue to share information. So as you're working on a project or as you're making progress with something, you share your updates, you share your information, you keep someone posted. So we see that in these sentences. So in the first one, keep me posted about your project, it means please send me updates about your project. I want to know. The second example sentence, I'll try to keep you posted about my schedule, means I will try to keep you updated. I will try to send you regular updates about my schedule. Let's go on to another variation for this verb. The second variation is to post bail, to post bail. This means to offer money in exchange for freedom from prison. Examples. He posted bail and got out of jail immediately. Many people aren't able to post bail, even for minor crimes. This is a very specific variation. In the US criminal system, there's this thing called bail. So if someone is convicted, if someone is arrested and has to go to prison because of a crime they committed, there's this thing called bail. If the person can pay this amount of money, they can be released from prison. They don't have to stay in prison. We refer to paying that money. So that the name of that money is bail, but we use the verb post here. So we say post bail. To post bail means to pay the required amount of money to get out of jail. So this is a specific phrase that we use only for this type of money, to post bail. We don't use this in another financial transaction at all. To post bail refers only to paying this amount of money to get out of jail. So this is a very specific one. I don't know if you have bail in your country, but this is something that exists in the US. So those are a few new ways. I hope that you can use the verb post. Of course, if you have questions or comments or want to practice making sentences, please feel free to do so in the comment section of this video.
Hey everyone, welcome to the Monthly Review, the monthly show on language learning, where you discover new learning strategies, motivational tips, study tools, and resources. By the way, all the lessons and bonuses you're about to see can be downloaded for free on our website. So click the link in the description right now to sign up for your free lifetime account. Okay, today's topic is how to adjust your routine and learn language from home. Many of us are spending more and more time at home. So how do you make the best of this time and learn your target language? Learning at home can be tough with all the distractions. And in this episode, you're going to discover the pros and cons of learning at home, and how to successfully learn from home without getting distracted. How to adjust your routine and learn language from home. Recently, many people have started to work and take classes from home. With language learning, since it's something people do in their own time, a lot of it is done at home anyway. But that doesn't mean that all of this hasn't affected how people learn. If you used a language learning app or listened to lessons during your commute, but you don't commute anymore, the pandemic has probably ruined your flow. With many of us spending more time at home, being able to learn from home efficiently is a good skill to have. Because while learning or working from home sounds good, it's not exactly easy to do. Part 1. The pros and cons of learning at home. First, the pros. There's convenience. You can learn whenever you want. You also have more time in the day since you're not commuting or walking from the train station into work. It's also easier to practice speaking. Many people might find it hard to practice on the train or at a lunch break or in the office during work. It might sound a little strange, but at home, you can dedicate more time to practicing speaking. What's your favorite pro of learning at home? Leave us a comment. Now, what about the cons? Distractions. There are a lot more distractions at home. There's the TV, there's the couch and the food and family members coming in and out. Next, there's no physical or mental separation between rest and work, which is crucial for focus. It's the same reason why people prefer going to the gym instead of working out from the comfort of their own home. If you're in a place where there's only one goal, like working out, and you're surrounded by people working out, you'll have no problem doing it. But if you're in a place you associate with rest, eating, and watching TV, you might have trouble focusing. But if you're spending more time at home, then you should at least make the best of it and learn your language at home. Part 2. How to successfully learn from home without getting distracted. So, here's how you do it. First, pick a dedicated place for learning, and preferably not your bed. Just like an office is associated with working time and your bedroom is associated with rest, you need a place associated with language learning. It could be your desk in the corner of the room. It could be your basement, as long as it's far from distractions and places of rest. Second, pick a time. That way, for example, when it's 9 p.m., you know it's time to put in 10 minutes of language learning. 3. Time box your study sessions. What's time boxing? Time boxing is simply setting a fixed amount of time for an activity. For example, you're going to dedicate the next 10 minutes to language and nothing else. If you usually have trouble concentrating, time boxing is a good way to set boundaries and get things done. 4. Start small. Just like with setting small, measurable goals and realistic routines, don't set aside 2 hours for study time. Instead, try to time box 5, 10, or 15 minutes and stick with that for a week or 2. You can always increase your time later once you get more comfortable with your routine. 5. Do multiple sessions in one day. Instead of trying to master a lesson and the lesson dialogue in one shot, space out your learning throughout the day, in the morning, afternoon, and at night. So take an audio or video lesson and read along with the lesson notes in the morning. You'll get acquainted with the conversation, all the words, and grammar rules. Don't rush to memorize it all. You'll come back to it later in the day. And do this for around 5 to 15 minutes. During the day, practice shadowing the dialogue. Practice recalling the words. Do this for around 10 minutes. You can also write out the lesson dialogue, practice using the grammar rules, or drill the words with flashcards. And at night, come back and review for about 10 minutes. You can re-listen to the lesson or just the dialogue track. By doing multiple sessions in one day, you'll be a lot more comfortable with the language, simply because you spaced out your learning and came back to review. And while it may feel repetitive, it's the repetition that helps you master the language over the long term. 6. Use at-home time to practice speaking more. It would be hard to practice if you were commuting or out on a walk, but if you're at home, you can easily speak out loud without drawing attention or feeling embarrassed. So, to recap, 1. Pick a specific place for learning that's far from distractions like your bed. 2. Pick a specific time for studying. 3. Time box your study sessions. 4. Start small. 5. Do multiple sessions in one day. And 6. Use at-home time to practice speaking more. So thank you for watching this episode of Monthly Review. Next time we'll talk about the power of learning a language with someone else. If you enjoyed these tips, hit the like button, share the video with anyone who's trying to learn a language, and subscribe to our channel. We release new videos every week. And if you're ready to finally learn language the fast, fun, and easy way and start speaking from your very first lesson, get our complete learning program. Sign up for your free lifetime account right now. Click the link in the description. See you next time. Bye! There are a lot of people working to learn another language, but there are also a lot of people who grew up speaking 2 or more languages without even thinking about it. If you're able to speak 2 languages, you're bilingual. If you can speak more, you're multilingual. In many countries, being bilingual or multilingual is normal or even expected. But in some countries, people grow up speaking and learning 1 language. If you speak 1 language, you're monolingual. So, what can monolinguals learn from bilinguals or multilinguals? This video will look at what it's like to be comfortable in 2 or more languages. Here are 6 pieces of information relating to bilingualism and multilingualism that you can use in your language learning. First, bilingualism and the brain. How does being bilingual or multilingual affect the brain? Do you dream in both languages? Do you see subtitles in your head for the other language as somebody's talking? The answers to questions like these are different for everyone. Some people may dream mostly in the language they're most comfortable with, and occasionally in another language. Some people may be able to effortlessly move between the languages they know, while others may get stuck from time to time. These are all normal parts of knowing more than 1 language. People who were exposed to another language since birth may have certain advantages in language acquisition over monolinguals. They may already be familiar with certain sounds and sound combinations that monolinguals are not familiar with. As a language learner, you're probably quite familiar with this. If you've already mastered a language and have decided to start learning a new one, you're probably going to unconsciously make connections to words in different languages. You'll think to yourself, this word has the same vowel sound as another word I know, so it should sound pretty similar. When it comes to studying things like new vocabulary words and grammar, however, monolinguals, bilinguals, and multilinguals all need to spend time learning and memorizing. So in your own learning, don't be discouraged by people who speak your native language and your target language. They may have had a totally different learning experience than you. Consider your language studies, not language abilities. Second, language mistakes and confusion. You may be wondering if bilinguals ever confuse languages in their heads. Generally, people who are fluent in multiple languages can separate the languages mentally. However, there are situations where people momentarily forget words, even in our native languages, or we think of a word in one language but not in another. In some cases, we might even want to use a word that exists in one language but not in the other. An interesting concept from academic literature on this topic is perfect bilingualism. It's the idea that someone can speak 2 languages perfectly at an equally high level.
Many people assume that someone who grew up speaking 2 languages would be able to use both of them perfectly and sound flawless, but this is generally not true. Bilingual people are often more comfortable talking about certain topics in specific languages. There are also situations where bilingual people may pronounce words with a slightly different accent than monolingual people. Interestingly enough, there's also a similar pattern among bilingual couples. Bilingual couples usually have a single dominant language. Even if they can speak another language with fluency and ease, people will usually use the language that's most efficient and comfortable. Third, bilingual societies. Can you imagine a place where you talk to your family in one language, your neighbors in another, your boss in a third, and write letters in a fourth? This might sound like a dream for many language enthusiasts, but in some societies, it's normal. This type of multilingual society occurs on border regions all throughout the world. In northern Iraq, for instance, people usually speak Kurdish, Turkish, and Iraqi Arabic, and many of them use modern standard Arabic and English at school. In some parts of China, people might learn English at school, speak their city's dialect of Mandarin when out shopping, speak standard Mandarin at work, and perhaps even speak another language when at home with their families. Some of these people might even say they're bad at languages. When people say this, it's often because they grew up using these languages, not learning them in school. When they were using a language at a friend's house and got their pronunciation corrected, there was no anxiety involved. This kind of learning is different than learning in a school setting, where tests and classrooms can cause pressure and discomfort. Media exposure plays a huge role, too. Many people around the world are functionally bilingual in English thanks to TV and YouTube. Sometimes parents, even in societies where people speak several languages, will put on educational English videos for kids to watch. But what's even more fun is something that's enjoyable for the kids that's already in English. You can do this too, as an adult language learner. There's a time and a place for coursework, but if you're able to shut off the learning part of your brain and simply absorb content you're interested in, you'll be surprised at what you can pick up after a couple of months. Fourth, heritage languages. You might know someone from an immigrant family who speaks a different language at home than they do with everybody else. That language is referred to academically as a heritage language. Basically, a language that someone learned at home without using it very much anywhere else. You can imagine that such an arrangement would produce huge variation in language ability. Some people have heritage languages that they learn from visiting their grandparents once a week. Others learn through rigorous homeschooling routines enforced by their parents. Heritage learners often have some marked differences in their speech compared to speakers who grew up in a monolingual environment. They might have an accent that's affected by the dominant language they grew up with, or they might feel uncomfortable using some grammar or vocabulary that they're not as familiar with. But on the other hand, they might be able to smoothly use things like tone, grammatical gender, and other aspects of language that are extremely difficult for learners to master. Their listening comprehension is also likely good. Another big difference is in reading and writing. You probably don't remember, but reading and writing took time to learn. It may be difficult to motivate yourself or a child to learn to read or write in a new language, especially if that language has a different and complicated script. We may be tempted to rely on the reading and writing skills we already have instead of learning something new. If you have a heritage language and you're working on reactivating it, be kind to yourself. Maybe you feel like you should know how to read or write in your heritage language, but you don't. And that's okay. You can work on building those skills as any other language learner would. A great way to build literacy is to read text with audio that you can listen to at the same time. You can use the lesson notes from our language learning program or watch videos with subtitles. This is easy to do from the comfort of your home. Fifth, gaining fluency in a second language. There's a lot of divided discussion about whether it's possible to learn a language to a native level. It's important to consider what native level means. Maybe a native speaker of your target language can talk about their work flawlessly, but they can't speak in depth about a topic beyond their field. You don't expect yourself to be able to talk about absolutely everything with 100% perfection in your native language, so don't expect that you'll magically be able to communicate perfectly in the language you're learning either. Moreover, it's important to remember that nobody speaks flawlessly all the time. We all make mistakes, and we know how to correct ourselves and clarify information. The best speakers in the world make mistakes, even on stage. Everybody's stumbled over their words before. Does that mean they're not fluent in their own language? Of course not. You can do some amazing things to get a native-like accent in a foreign language, but they all take a great deal of work. Lots of people convince others that they're native speakers for the first few minutes of conversation. Does it really matter if you end up making mistakes after 40 seconds? 40 minutes? Remember, the perfect speech is not required to speak like a native. As we've talked about in this video, lots of bilingual and multilingual people have strengths and weaknesses too. Sixth, can a bilingual person forget a language? Language skills can deteriorate over time if they're not used. If you're very busy with one language and rarely use the other, you might see a drop in your abilities in the language you don't use as often. Completely forgetting a language takes a very long time, though. While you might forget a word here and there in one language, you likely won't lose a language completely unless you don't use it for decades. This is something to think about for anyone who is considering spending their life in another country. Make sure to keep your language skills up. Otherwise, as time goes on, things may be harder and harder to remember. Being bilingual or multilingual is pretty interesting. A lot of language learners compare themselves to bilinguals or multilinguals. Remember that bilingual and multilingual people put in work too, when they were kids. So don't feel discouraged if it seems like your own learning is slow. It simply takes time, and that's true for everyone. For even more tips and information related to language learning, check out our complete language learning program. Sign up for your free lifetime account by clicking on the link in the description. Get tons of resources to have you speaking in your target language. And if you enjoyed these tips, hit the like button, share the video with anyone who's trying to learn a new language, and subscribe to our channel. We release new videos every week. I'll see you next time. Bye! If a native speaker of your target language spoke to you, how much of their speech do you think you could understand? Your answer, of course, depends a lot on your vocabulary skills. In this video, we're going to cover 5 tips for memorizing vocabulary quickly. When you learn new vocabulary words, you increase your skills in reading, writing, listening, and speaking. As you learn a language, you gain the ability to recognize vocabulary words and learn when to use them. It's important to have a vocabulary that covers a range of topics so that you can understand important announcements, safety information, conversations between friends, and posts on social media. In this video, we're going to talk about why vocabulary is important, some features in the tools we offer that help you focus on memorizing, and some tips for memorizing words faster. Throughout this video, remember that consistency is a key component to memorization. If you haven't done this already, consider adding a number of vocabulary words you'd like to master to your monthly language goals. Okay, let's get to our tips. First, master our core word lists. We offer 11 core word lists. These lists are made up of the most common words in your target language. The 100 core word list is the best list for absolute beginners. After you master that list, you can move on to the other lists in the series. The 2000 core word list is a combination of all of the lists plus an additional 1,000 words. Having knowledge of about 2,000 vocabulary words in your target language will set you up for success. Knowing a variety of words in your target language is important because it allows you to speak about and understand many different topics. While grammar is certainly important, having the vocabulary you need to go about daily life, study, or make plans is essential. So, how do you use the core word lists? With our flashcard feature. Our flashcard tool can display the vocabulary word, show a picture and translation, and play an audio recording of the vocabulary. You'll work on improving your recognition, production, and listening comprehension skills. Using a tool like this helps you associate new words with images. You also get to hear pronunciation and pitch accents from native speakers. You have the ability to choose how many new cards you'd like to learn daily. By the way, using the 2000 core word list isn't the only way to review all key vocabulary words. You can also merge your preferred lists. If you lack confidence in speaking, studying vocabulary can help you. If you master the most common words in your target language, speaking will become a bit easier. Among our core word lists are popular topics relating to hobbies, nature, food, and recreation. If you need some help making sentences with your new vocabulary, you can take a look at the core word list example sentences for ideas. These are all steps you can take to improve your speaking confidence. Second, create your own sentences. Creating your own sentences is a great way to work on memorizing new vocabulary. You can create sentences related to your daily life so that you can easily remember the sentences and use them. You can also try creating sentences you think you're likely to need before a conversation with a native speaker. In addition to our core word lists, we also have a dictionary feature. If you need help finding a certain vocabulary word, you can search for it in our dictionary. The dictionary includes audio from native speakers, so you can hear how the word is pronounced naturally and at a slower speed. With a premium membership, you'll have access to your own personal word bank. You'll be able to add words from the dictionary and our lessons to this word bank and study them using flashcards. Another thing that can help you with memorization is reading along with lesson dialogues and listening to the host's explanations. When you find a sentence that stands out, or when you make a sentence you think will be useful, make sure to actually use the sentence. Your memory will grow stronger and stronger as you review sentences and practice saying them from memory. Third, read every day. How often do you read in your target language? Reading is a fun activity that can motivate you to spend some time studying new vocabulary. When you read, you encounter words you've seen in lessons, but you also find new words. Apart from reading for fun, our language learning program offers reading comprehension pathways for all levels. These pathways feature video lessons with vocabulary you're likely to see in real life. For example, an advanced pathway might include lessons for understanding promotional information, medical instructions, and directions. These pathways are designed to test your ability to recognize words. Another way to memorize words fast is by learning songs in your target language. If you're studying a language with sounds that are very different from your first language, this can be a really helpful tactic. You can make a monthly goal to memorize 1 to 3 songs you like in your target language. You can find the lyrics to the song with a search online, and you can search for a translation as well. As you listen to the song, read the lyrics. This can help you connect the sounds you're hearing with the characters or the letters you're reading. And remember, the songs can be from anywhere. It could be a kid's song, a new pop song, or a TV show theme. You can choose. The key is to find a fun way to read every day. This will help you improve your vocabulary. Fourth, test your listening skills. Test your listening skills with our listening comprehension pathways. Each of the pathways presents a conversation, asks a question, and then gives a breakdown. In our audio lessons, the hosts break down the dialogue by talking about the usage of key vocabulary and phrases. They also explain the grammar. After you listen to the breakdown, the dialogue is easier to understand. Make sure to re-listen to the lesson dialogues to review these important concepts. Another way to use our site for listening comprehension is by changing the flashcard settings. With our flashcards, you have the option to focus on building listening comprehension. If you choose this setting, the front of your flashcard will play an audio clip, and the back will show the answer. Additionally, if you're a Premium Plus member, you can practice listening with your native speaker teacher. You can request audio responses from your teacher instead of text. If you understand their message, you can respond with an audio file of your own, or with text. If you don't fully understand, you can ask your teacher for help. One more thing you can do is use TV shows to practice listening. You can choose a segment of a show to practice. Watch it once with subtitles, then once without subtitles. Determine how much you can comprehend. Then look up the words you don't know. Fifth, take vocabulary quizzes. There are many ways to test yourself with vocabulary quizzes. Each of our lessons includes a vocabulary slideshow and quizzes that you can use for review. We also have video vocab pathways, which introduce new vocabulary based on certain themes, and they include pictures. You can also try making your own written tests with our flashcard feature. Change the flashcard settings according to your preferences. You can choose between recognition, production, and listening comprehension card types. Based on the card type you chose, write down either the vocabulary word or its translation when the card appears. Check your answers and give yourself a score for your study session. Writing vocabulary by hand is another great way to work on memorizing words. Earlier, we talked about learning vocabulary with songs. A fun and effective way to test your vocabulary and writing skills is to fill in the blanks. Copy and paste the lyrics of a song into a document and replace some of the words with blanks. Test your knowledge of the lyrics by filling in the blanks with the correct words. You can make it a little easier by including a word box, a list of vocabulary to use somewhere in the song. You can also do this with dialogues you want to practice from TV shows.
To make sure you get all of the tools mentioned in this video, subscribe to our premium plan. You'll get access to all of our resources, including the core word lists and the flashcard tool. So, to recap, in this video we talked about 5 tips for memorizing new words. They were: master our core word lists, create your own sentences, read every day, test your listening skills, and take vocabulary quizzes. These tips are fun and effective ways to help you reach your vocabulary goals a bit faster. If you want to go the extra mile, subscribe to Premium Plus to get access to your own native teacher. What are your vocabulary goals? How will you achieve them? Share your answers in the comment section below. And for even more tips on how to remember vocabulary fast, check out our complete language learning program. Sign up for your free lifetime account by clicking on the link in the description. Get tons of resources to have you speaking in your target language. And if you enjoyed these tips, hit the like button, share the video with anyone who's trying to learn a new language, and subscribe to our channel. We release new videos every week. I'll see you next time. Bye! Consistent hard work is one of the biggest factors that determine someone's success, and it's true for language learning too. While it's important to choose a course and study method that's right for you, at the end of the day, the results you see are a product of the effort you put in. However, the quantity of time spent studying a new language doesn't necessarily determine the quality of your study. Spending 3 hours a day watching movies doesn't help you learn much if you're not actively engaging with the language. In this video, we'll talk about how to actively engage your mind while studying. Number 1. Think of your brain as a muscle. You might be familiar with the phrase, "feel the burn," or maybe "no pain, no gain." If you've been to your local gym recently, there's a chance you might have heard one of these phrases or seen something similar on a poster on a wall. In the world of sports and workouts, there's a common idea that the discomfort you feel when running, lifting weights, or doing some other physical activity is what brings results. The discomfort you feel is your muscles being pushed to their limit. It's the limit pushing that strengthens your muscles so that over time your performance increases. In the context of language learning, it's helpful to think of your brain as a muscle being trained. Just as we need to push against our physical limits when exercising, we also need to push our mental ones when learning a foreign language. Have you ever studied or practiced your target language in a way that left you tired or even exhausted? If so, you've experienced what it's like to push your brain out of its linguistic comfort zone. Number 2, practice active listening. One of the easiest ways to push your language skills is to practice active listening. Active listening is when you listen to spoken language and do your best to understand what you hear. The best way to accomplish this is by using audio that you can't completely understand on the first listen. Preferably, you want to use audio that has subtitles or transcripts in your target language for you to double-check your understanding after you listen to it. You can use movies, YouTube clips, or our lessons. During this exercise, you might feel like you're able to pick out only a few words here and there. During this practice session, you should listen to the audio several times. The first time around, it's okay if no words or just a few words stick out to you. Simply make a mental note of any words or sounds you recognize. The second time you listen, you're likely to recognize a little more than you did the previous time. Expect similar results with your third or even fourth time listening. When you reach a point where you can't understand any more words, go ahead and look at the subtitles or transcripts. Listen to the audio again and read along with the text. Odds are that you'll see words in the text you know, but didn't hear correctly. You're also likely to encounter words that are new to you completely. As you play back the audio and read along, try to guess what these words mean from the context of the words around them. After you've read along a couple times, look up the unfamiliar words in a dictionary or translator app. This active listening exercise routine is a great way to increase your listening and comprehension skills, while picking up some new vocabulary along the way. It also allows you to learn new words in context, which itself is a powerful way to help you retain what you study. Number 3, practicing with native speakers. Practicing with native speakers is the best way to push your language skills. Using what you've studied to communicate in real time is how you'll really challenge yourself. Try to connect with a native speaker on a weekly basis. Remember, consistency is important when you're learning a foreign language. If you live in a large metropolitan area, then there's a chance that there are some local native speakers nearby. Try visiting a local language exchange or meetup group to make the necessary connections.
If you're unable to find a practice partner locally, then you can take your search online. There are a number of sites that help you find and connect with other language learners from around the world. For example, if you're a native English speaker learning a new language, you can find a native speaker of your target language who is learning English. There are tons of language learners around the world who have learned or are learning a second language. You're likely to find someone who knows your target language and is looking to improve his or her English. Learning a new language isn't always easy, but it's the discomfort that comes with pushing your ability in the language that produces results in your studies. Don't be afraid to step outside of your comfort zone. It's okay to move far outside of your native language. You'll expand your mind and your skills. Also remember that language learning is in every way a lot like an adventure. There will be fun times and times when it feels like you're swimming upstream. It's by keeping your head up through these ups and downs that you will experience the satisfaction that comes with learning a foreign language. Keep moving ahead. And for even more tips on how to engage better in your language learning, check out our complete language learning program. Sign up for your free lifetime account by clicking on the link in the description. Get tons of resources to have you speaking in your target language. And if you enjoyed these tips, hit the like button, share the video with anyone who's trying to learn a new language, and subscribe to our channel. We release new videos every week. I'll see you next time. Bye! Great work! Here's a reward. Speed up your language learning with our PDF lessons. Get all of our best PDF cheat sheets and ebooks for free. Just click the link in the description.